Hello, my name is Nate. Welcome to the George Eastman Museum. Today, I'll be reading It's a Snap, George Eastman's first photograph, written by Monica Culling and illustrated by Bill Slavin.
Today is a holiday. I hold a camera and frame your face whenever you look my way. I line up light to make you shine. I line you up to make you mine. Move forward, move left, move back, move right. Give yourself to the camera's sight. I focus, refocus. Your lines are true. I hold my breath holds you. It's ready. It's now. It's click. Your history. George Eastman left school when he was only 14. His father had died and the family was poor. George had to support his mother and his two sisters. As an office boy, George worked hard. When he grew up, he became a banker and worked even harder. Banking was tiring. I could use a break, said George one day. You could use a hobby, said his mother. George thought about hobbies. He liked pictures, but he couldn't paint. Maybe he could take pictures with a camera instead. It was 1877. Cameras were the size of a microwave oven, and you needed lots of supplies to take a picture. George was fond of making lists. He set out from home to get what he needed. Glass plates, a plate holder, a tent, a heavy tripod, a thick piece of black cloth, a water jug, and of course, chemicals. George left the store loaded with gear. So far, his new hobby was hard work. George Eastman lived in Rochester, New York, where a stone bridge crossed a nearby river. It was the perfect spot for an outdoor show. One morning, George strapped the tent and the tripod onto his back. He carried the camera, the plates, the plate holder, the black cloth, the water jug, and the chemicals. He felt like a pack horse, but he was ready to take a photograph. On his way, the grocer stopped George. "Where are you going?" she asked. "I'm off to take a photograph," replied George. "This I've got to see," said the grocer. Further down the road, the baker wanted to know where George and the grocer were going. "George is off to take a photograph," replied the grocer. "Wow," said the baker. "This I've got to see." The baker followed George and the grocer, and before you could say scrambled eggs on toast, the blacksmith, the cobbler, and half a dozen others were following George too. At the stone bridge, George had a brainwave. "Bunch together, everyone," he shouted. "I'm going to take your photograph." "How exciting," said the grocer. "You betcha," said the baker. "I don't know anyone who can take a photograph," said the blacksmith. "What's a photograph?" asked the cobbler. George went into the tent to prepare the glass plate. He soaked it in the chemical tray. When the plate became cloudy, George raced to the camera. The plate could not dry out. If it did, George would have to start all over again. The plate was soon in place. A black cloth covered George and his camera. Everyone stood still. George held his breath. Snap! Back to the tent he went to develop the plate. George worked slowly and carefully. He could not drop the plate, or it would break. He could not spill the chemical, or it would eat holes in his clothes or burn his skin. Time passed slowly. Everyone was bored. "My shop is waiting for me," said the grocer. "My horses are waiting for me," said the blacksmith. The cobbler nodded. He had plenty of shoes with holes waiting for him. Finally, the photograph was ready. George waved it in the air. "Take a look, everybody," he shouted. But George was on his own. Everyone had already gone back to town. George Eastman loved his hobby. "I wish everyone could take pictures," he said. "It's so much fun." "Do something about it," suggested his mother. Not many people could own a camera. They cost too much. A cheap one cost $25. It took weeks of hard work to make that kind of money. "Dry plates would make picture taking easier," said George. He wanted to make the camera as convenient as the pencil. So, every day after work, George busied himself with his dry plates. He mixed the chemicals in his mother's kitchen. He baked the plates in his mother's oven. In the mornings, George's mother would find him asleep on the floor. It took George 3 years to make a plate that worked. He tested it by taking a photograph of the house across the street. "I did it," shouted George. "Happy news," said his mother. She wanted her kitchen back. George's dry plates were a huge success. They were the best thing since swinging doors. Soon, George made enough money to quit the bank. He opened his own dry plate company in 1881. It wasn't long before George thought dry plates were yesterday's news. He had another idea: film. It took 4 years to make the first roll of film. It was a brand new way to take pictures. No fuss, no muss. "No more plates," announced George. "Wonderful," said his mother. She was getting tired of camera talk. George's next idea was his best idea: a camera everyone could use. It was small and light and came loaded with film. George's new camera needed a name. He liked the sound of the letter K. He put 2 of them in the name. Kodak sounded like the click of a shutter. George called his company the Eastman Kodak Company. He even wrote his own ads. "You press the button, we do the rest." The new camera caught on quick. You could take 100 photographs on just 1 roll of film. When the roll was done, you mailed it with the camera to the Eastman Kodak Company. Your pictures came back, and so did your cameras, loaded for more snapping. George's camera was soon world famous. But George wasn't finished with camera ideas. He wanted kids to get snap happy too. He called the new camera a Brownie. It costs only $1. George Eastman's camera ideas made him rich. He built a 50-room mansion in Rochester. His mother, who had always been poor, moved in with him. George wanted her to live in luxury. George's mansion had all the modern conveniences. It had 21 telephones, a built-in vacuum cleaner, an elevator, and a large pipe organ. Every morning, an organist played the organ while George and his mother ate breakfast. George was generous. He gave a lot of money away. One of his first projects was a dental clinic in Rochester. Soon, kids were having their teeth checked for a nickel. George took photographs all his life. You might call him a shutterbug. He was fond of the saying, "A picture is worth 1,000 words." When George traveled, he took pictures. When George stayed at home, he took pictures. He pointed his camera and framed the shot. Then he'd shout, "Say cheese!" And people did. Get snap happy. The camera's come a long way since George Eastman's day. Today's digital cameras let you view your photos the moment you take them. You can download them onto a computer. You can email them to friends. Make a screensaver out of your favorite one, or print a copy to hang on your wall, all on the same day. Pictures might be easy to snap, but they are better when you know what you're doing. Here are some tips to remember. Frame your shot before you snap it. You don't want a tree or pole sticking out of your friend's head. You don't want a lot of clutter in the picture either. Moving close to get the best shot. It's time to get snap happy. Move forward, move left, move back, move right. Give yourself to the camera's sight.